Hello my friends. In this month's video, I'm going to cover a couple of very important items having to do with creativity as a writer, as an info publisher, and so on. The first is deep breathing. I've written about this, I've spoken about it, I've talked about it in my seminars and my recordings for a long, long time. And you might wonder, how do I do it? What's my method? Well, that's a tough one to explain because I don't just have one method. I have a lot of different methods. But I'm going to make it as simple and easy as I can for you in this particular video. And I'm going to do it by teaching you what are called the 9 cleansing breaths. The 9 cleansing breaths are designed to get the excess heat out of the body, to take you out of, let's say, your head and your upper extremities and move the energy down. Now you might wonder, why would you move the energy down? Because isn't your head where all of it is? Well, actually, no. The creative juice, so to speak, the creative juice comes from the root chakra, some people call it, or let's just call it the root. The perineum in men, the area in between the anus, is that how you pronounce it? The anus and the testicles. Women, you know where the root is. Don't need to explain that to you. Men, you need to explain it. Now, this is the area of the human body that we know is responsible for procreation. Procreation. You create as though you're a pro. Now, what if you're an amateur? Wait a minute. Procreation. Taking your lineage and expanding it beyond where you are today. So you have a baby. You procreate. But we also need to know that our creative energy, creating of books, of emails, newsletters, DVDs, coaching programs, writing sales copy, putting up websites, all of this comes again from the same area. So when we start to lose momentum, when we start to lose our procreative instinct for creating products, then you want to know how to ramp it up. Or let's say you've never created anything and you want to be more creative. Well, then we've got to increase the energy in that root. And there are many ways to do it. But the first thing before you do it is you got to get the excess heat out of the body. And this particular technique you can do before you go to bed at night so you rest easier, or you can do it before you sit to write or to edit and create. And the way it works is you're going to inhale through the nose, and when you inhale through the nose, you imagine and feel that there's a white cloud under your nose. It's a white cloud, a white pillow of smoke under your nose. You inhale it in through the nostrils and up into the third eye area, and then goes into the center of the brain, and then enters the spinal cord and begins to come down. The spinal cord, the inside of the spinal cord, called the thrusting channel. So when I do this, first thing is I want the top of my head to be pulled up. Not me pulling it up, by the way, but imagining and feeling that there's a string. Let's say the string is 12 feet above my head, and the string is pulling the crown up. So my head goes from this position, or this position with my chin out, to a position where now my chin is down, but there's no strain in my neck. So I don't put my neck down with strain. Just imagine the skull cap being pulled up by a string, and then the back of my neck, the muscles along the back of my neck, are also stretched. As that happens, I feel the spine lengthening in two directions. It's lengthening up and it's lengthening down. So when you see me make this motion, that's what it means. Now, from there, I want to sink my energy in my solar plexus back. So notice what I did here. Back and down. And the energy in the solar plexus pushes back, that hollows out the chest, and then the energy pushes down into the pelvis, or the pelvic diaphragm. This then allows the inhale to go through my spine and into the perineum, or into the root. So when I inhale now, we want to also observe this principle of you don't use excessive force. In the beginning, people who have a lot of tension, they're really stressed, the inhale should be really short. And it might only go, let's say, into the neck area, spinal cord in the neck. And then you release it and let it go. And you release it by letting it out the mouth. Now, other breathing techniques, inhale nose, exhale nose. But we're cleansing now. So inhale, exhale. And I'm only going as far as the neck currently because I'm going to assume that some of you are in that same spot. All right? So now we're going to lengthen it, and we're going to go, let's say, without force. If it feels forceful, then back off. The whole idea is to make it easy. If you make it easy, you're not tampering and fighting your nervous system, and the inhale will naturally and spontaneously start to drop on its own. So when I do this next inhale, so it went to about the heart center, and now, and get this feeling of exhaling completely. But completely doesn't mean you strain to exhale completely. It means about 70%. So about 70% on the inhale, 70% on the exhale. Now we'll go another one. That one went as far as the solar plexus. Go another one. That inhale went down to my navel center. Now we go lower, possibly. That was, I think, 5. It might have been 6. let's just say that's number 6. Now we do number 7. And then I'll do 2 more. One more. My eyes are open when I do this, and I'm looking straight ahead but down at the ground. I soften everything and I relax. Now, can you do more than 9 breaths? Sure. If you're really stressed out, maybe you do 18. Maybe you do 36. But 9 breaths will take you 2 minutes. Maybe a little less than that. And it starts to put you into the present moment where you're not thinking restless thoughts. You're not as anxious. You're not full of doubt and so on. You just give yourself a clean slate. You're giving yourself a clean slate so that when you create, you can do so without anxiety, without worry, without doubt, without self-criticism and so on. This is really the key. Now, the Taoists in China, historically, before they engaged in any creative endeavor, music, poetry, or practicing martial arts, they begin with a type of breathing exercise. Many people use the word meditation. You can use the word meditation if you want, or if that makes you think it's weird or strange, say beginning with some deep breathing respiration exercises. Simple enough. Now, what happens when you get more in touch with this breathing mechanism is the energy is going to travel through your spine, and it's going to activate the root. When the root begins to get activated, how would you know? You know because you feel a little tingling sensation there. All right? Nice little tingling vibration. That means that you've got a pulse when it comes to creating something. If you don't currently feel that, not to worry. All you got to do is just keep practicing. Now, if you enjoyed this exercise, and I'm betting you did, we can then go to something a little more advanced. And this exercise will help you, again, activate more creative energy. So now we got this pillow of white, cloudy smoke that we inhale. But our navel center is where we take in nutrition when we were in our mother's womb. That's where we took it in. And the inhale was not inhaling air. The inhale was the umbilical cord attached to your mother. It pulled in, it pulled back. Now, you see my lower belly moving, but I'm moving it with intention. I'm not physically doing this to move it. What I'm doing is I'm inhaling this white cloud. I'm inhaling it through, imagine there's a straw that's connected to this big white cloud of energy. And I'm inhaling energy through that cloud, through that straw, or umbilical cord if that works for you, in to the center of the belly behind the navel center. So halfway from the front and the back. Now the back, directly behind the navel center, is called the Mingmen. And the Mingmen in Chinese means the door of life. So, and what's to the side of this door of life? Your kidneys. Your kidneys get depleted very easily, especially in today's world with constant negative news and the fear-mongering and so on. And this is also when you work and you create, you're creating from the root, and that energy can get depleted. So you want to have a way not only to let out the stress with the 9 cleansing breaths, but you want to have a way to regenerate. So what the Taoists figured out in China was that if the baby inhales the nutrition from the mother with this reverse type of breathing, that as adults, when we need to regenerate and rejuvenate ourselves, if we have the same idea of this cloud of white energy, and it could be white golden energy as well, that's usually my favorite, and we're inhaling through the nose, and we're inhaling that energy into the center, behind the navel, and then we let it go. So what will happen, again, without force, is I'm inhaling into the center by intention. Just imagine I can pull in that smoke, that white energy, into the center, goes all the way to the back, and then it goes out. So the belly is coming in on the inhale, and it's going out on the exhale. This is what they would call primordial breathing or embryonic breathing. Some people call it reverse breathing or Taoist breathing as well. But really, just think of it as embryonic breathing. You're this unborn baby inside your mother's womb, and bringing the energy in, letting the energy go. Now, as you do this, and you can do, let's say, 36 repetitions. As you do this and you practice it each day, you will start to gather heat in this, what's called the lower cauldron. You'll gather heat. Your belly will start to get hotter. And as that heat grows, it expands outward toward each kidney, and it goes down. It goes down into the root. So why am I covering this? Because people want to know what I do to come up with some of my creative, wacky ideas, or how to write without fear, how to write without worry, without anxiety. Just, you're this clean slate. Well, you got to get back to what your breathing was like when you didn't have any fear, worry, doubt. You go back to being a child again. You re-enter this idea of the womb. You cannot re-enter your mother's womb, but you can re-enter the universal womb. So you've got this entire universe of energy around you, and you inhale and you exhale, and you make it as natural as possible. Again, no force. You don't force anything. Force, it sends a message to your central nervous system to shut down. And it creates, there's more anxiety created when you're using force. So the objective is to rid yourself of the anxiety, to give yourself this clean slate, washing it off with both hands. So if I stress myself doing it, then it's not good. I want to make it as easy on myself as I possibly can. Now, I intended with this video to just cover the 9 cleansing breaths, and here we are. I give you embryonic breathing as well. But it's probably enough for this lesson, but I'll continue shortly, because the whole idea was to get the creative juices flowing and to regenerate the creative juices, to regenerate your life force. So if this is where the life force is coming to us when we're in our mother's womb, well, then we want to re-enter this universal womb and bring the force in. All right? Now, one last detail is you can simultaneously have this pillow of white energy going in, down the spine, and this ball of energy also in front of you, entering through the navel center, going all the way back. You can have both of them going at the same time, but if it's difficult for you to imagine and feel that, then just choose one or the other. Make it easy. All right, so what I have here is a pen, an ink pen, and a clipboard, and a bunch of white sheets. Well, what are those for? Those are for note-taking. All throughout the day, we hear things, people tell us something, we're reading, we're listening, we're taking in information, and the worst thing we can do as creators is to assume that we're going to remember what we heard. Or we're going to remember this bright idea we got. Earl Nightingale said it best, or perhaps best, when he mentioned that ideas are like slippery fish. You gotta put a hook through them to save them. And what I do, I could be reading a book, or I'm sitting having breakfast. Much of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, I have 3x5 cards. I have oversized postcards. This is Judo Jean LaBelle and myself back in 1999. And I have a ton of these. So I use the backs of these to write and make notes. I make notes about other people's programs, how they've outlined it, the key points, the principles, the concepts, and I make notes about products I want to create, newsletters I'm going to write, as well as email topics. Here is an example of a whole bunch of different email topics or subject lines. Who's got your back? Biggest mistakes goal setters make. Who's standing in your way? What's blocking you? Eyes wide open visualization. Small steps are huge. Momentum. How to get it. Are you overmotivated? Signs and symptoms of overmotivation. No one is giving 110%. You know how you hear these football coaches talking about, or players, I give 110%. Nobody even gives 100%. We don't even know what our 100% is. So this 110% is just silly. Stop trying. It doesn't work. The real power of intention. Intention or imagination. Discipline versus regret. That was a Jim Rohn saying. That discipline weighs ounces and regret weighs tons. Beats long-range goals easily. Easily beats long-range goals. Edit your brain. Why hard work is overrated. I made a quantum leap doing this. The big lie of massive action. The comfort zone lie. So that's about, let me see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 21. And I love 21. On this particular idea on a different postcard I have 21 different concepts and principles that I'm going to be discussing in a forthcoming product. But 21, I first heard that from Brian Tracy in a speech in 1988 or 89. I flew to San Diego, California for a National Association for Professional Speakers, and I had joined it for 1 year. I listened to him give a talk, and he mentioned that when he creates a product, if he's got at least 21 ways something is done, it makes it very easy. You'll easily have enough to give a riveting speech, to go into great detail on exercise, on marketing, on public speaking, on how you make the best green tea in the world, whatever it is. Now, does it need to be 21? No, but 21 gives you a good amount to draw from. And then you can choose the 7 habits of highly effective people. You can have the 8 this, the 15 that. It doesn't have to be 21, but when you have 21, it gives you enough to look at that. You better be able to find 5 really good ones or 7 really good ones. It's not that difficult. But when you're creating this way regularly, when you're writing things down on a regular basis, what happens is you're causing an imprint in your brain. You're causing an imprint in terms of your nervous system and your habits. What happens is you get used to thinking about subject lines, about titles for YouTube videos, about titles for newsletters and books and CDs and DVDs, about the names of coaching programs you're going to have, and so on. You start thinking in headlines, you start thinking in subject lines, you start thinking in titles. And the reason you do is because you're always writing. The more you do it, the more you can do it. The less you do, the less you'll be able to do. So the key is to always be writing. And even when I'm not sending emails on a regular basis. Somebody asked me this, what you wrote about, you talk about in your program to send 2 or 3 emails a day, and I haven't gotten one from you in 2 weeks. It's too bad. I spoke about it, I did it. It's not as though I spoke about it and taught it and never did it. I did it for many, many, many years. And now I'm more of the Angelo Dundee, who's Muhammad Ali's trainer. He didn't get into the ring and fight anymore. He didn't have to. I still send out emails. I'm still productive. I'm still kicking ass. But I don't feel the need to send 3 emails a day every single day just because I talked about it in a course I created some time ago. The course is for all of you who want to up your game and get better and better and better. You're the ones that need to be thinking about at least 1 email a day, if not 2 or 3, or 4 or 5. Ben Settle sends out more than 3 a day many days. I never did that, but it must be working for him. Otherwise, he wouldn't keep doing it. So I stopped at 3. Doesn't mean that 3 is the limit. The point is that the goal ought to be to work yourself into a position such as I have garnered, where you don't have to write them every day because you made a fortune. That's the idea. That's what you want to do. On my 3x5 cards here, one says, wake up happy. Wake up happy. How do you do that? Well, you learn it now in my email, or in my newsletter, or in a product. Dowzo subject lines. Here we have 5 different ones I've penned here. Cool your jets. Calm your nerves. Spring in your step. Deer in headlights. Ignore Dr. Death. Now, will any of those become an actual email subject line? Probably not. But the idea will. Get me writing. And then when the email is done, oftentimes I start with the subject line, and then I write the email, and then I go back and I tweak the subject line. Often. The wrong way to train. The wrong way to train. Well, what do? How does this apply to writing? This is actually for fitness, but how does this apply to writing and creating? Push a little more each day. Push to fatigue. Believe in should. What does that mean? It means that there's a writer that I've done some coaching with, and he wants to write books, but he also has a day job writing copy for other people. It's not really a day job in the sense of 8 to 5. He has many clients that he writes for, but he also wants to write books. But he doesn't want one to take, if he takes away from this one, then maybe he doesn't have enough money to do that one. It's a dilemma. What's your mental picture of you sitting and writing a book? I asked him. What's your mental picture? He says 4 hours a day of writing on the book. 4 hours a day. No wonder you have this idea. You have these conflicting mental images. I got to do this work to make my daily bread and feed my family, but I want to write a book also, or books. Well, 4 hours a day? You don't need to be writing for 4 hours a day to write a book. You can be writing 40 minutes a day. You could write 20 minutes a day. Just give yourself a paragraph or a half a page. There's a friend of mine, Stephen Chandler, who's written a ton of books. And I don't think he writes very much each day because they're very short chapters. They're all 1 page. I think that's about all he does. And every few months he's got another book done using this method. There are some people that sit and they write for hours a day. That's great. But I don't think it's sustainable. I think having a window that you're going to write for 2 hours, let's say, and those are professional writers, really, really big time professionals. They might write for a couple hours a day. For most of us, if you sit and you're cranking out 10-minute emails, or you are writing 4 double-spaced pages a day, that's enough. Call it a day. It's not a marathon that you got to run in one day. It's a series of sprints. Think of the cheetah. The cheetah goes out and runs 1 sprint a day. Now, does it run that sprint at 110%? The cheetah has to not only run down the antelope, but it has to wrestle it to the ground, bite it in the jugular, and subdue it. so that it can eat. So even if a cheetah is running 65, 70 miles per hour, it may not be its fastest speed that it's capable of running. Nevertheless, because it has to finish off the animal, nevertheless, the cheetah only runs one of those a day. One. Think of your creating this way. If you have another job or occupation that you're working in now and you're building up this other business, don't think in terms of spending hours and hours a day. Think of generating momentum. Generate momentum naturally and spontaneously, not by forcing it, but by letting it build. Same way with the breathing, you inhale and you practice this each day, a little bit, 15 minutes a day. All of a sudden you start building heat in the lower belly. Oh, where the hell did that come from? And how does that happen? How do you generate heat in the lower belly by doing these breathing exercises for 15 minutes a day? Is that it? Just 15 minutes? Don't I need to go to a monastery and meditate for 8 hours a day or make it a full-time profession? No. You can make tremendous progress with simple steps. But they're simple steps that are done day after day after day. The key point I wanted to make here that might have gotten lost was that even if I'm not sending an email out each and every day, I'm writing. I'm writing poems, I'm making lists, I'm practicing subject lines and headlines and titles, so on. Last thing is start going through some of my materials over the years. The 7 best bodyweight exercises of all times. It's a 4-page report. I'm thinking, man, I got to redo this. How to eliminate shoulder pain. How to eliminate lower back pain. How to eliminate knee pain. Special reports. Oh, look at this, April 2013, Effort Defeats Itself, a newsletter. Superhuman Success, Psycho-Cybernetics newsletter. The Curse of Sameness, September 29, 2009. Successful people who think they're failures. The 1,000-Mile Stare. The Strangest Secret of Champions. Which movie will you watch? The Law of Attracting Smiles. The Positive Power of Negative Self-Talk. This is 8 or 10 different newsletters. Talk about content. Producing something, creating something all the time. Get the root chakra activated and lose the fear, lose the anxiety, lose the worry, lose the self-doubt. And how do you do that? By changing your limiting beliefs. No. I'll cover that in another lesson. This has probably gone on, I'm guessing, about 40 minutes. And I would think you've taken some copious notes on this. This is powerful, powerful medicine I'm giving you. The deep breathing is actually the most valuable thing from this video. Why do you think I've held it back for so long? I'm not giving you the details. Because it's secret. Because it's powerful. It's very, very strong. It makes you stronger. It clears your mind and it gives you a power that you didn't know you had. Deep breathing is the secret of pulling in personal power or universal power or both. Yes, I'd say both. That's enough. Stop talking, Fury. Here ended the lesson, my friends. Look forward to our next video, and